Okay, welcome to Holy Hormones. Menopause is kicking my butt. I've been begging Rhonda. So I'm Andrea Inverso, founder of Women Lead, and this is Rhonda Thornton, National Board Certified Health and Wellness Coach. Get that one right?
You got it.
And I have been begging her to talk about menopause, perimenopause, all the symptoms that come with it, because I realized probably about a month ago when I found a podcast with Mel Robbins and Dr. Mary Clay Haver that I had a ton of perimenopause symptoms probably 8 years before I ever stopped having periods and had no idea what was happening. I had the heart palpitations. I had a full workup on my heart multiple times to make sure that I didn't have some kind of AFib. I had shoulder problems. I had the typical night sweats, all of that. But there were every time she mentioned a symptom, I would say, "Oh my gosh, I had that too." So I begged Rhonda to come on here and have a talk with me for all of my midlife audience to tell you, if you're not there yet, what's going to happen and help you understand what did happen and maybe give you some tips on how to get over it. So, welcome, Rhonda. Thank you for agreeing to do this.
Thank you for having me. And your experience is what most women have.
Yeah, so the doctor said because the only symptom that is not explainable with another symptom is hot flashes, that's the only thing. I mean, with another condition, hot flashes are the only thing that they consider to be menopause symptoms. Everything else can be defined by another condition, like the heart palpitations. And that's why nobody digs deeper into menopause. So tell me what you've learned about it. I'm going to stop talking and let you give us your expertise.
Okay. Well, first of all, there is a huge range of symptoms that come with menopause, but let's talk about what menopause really is first. There's three stages that signal the end of your reproductive health. There's perimenopause, which can start 10 years before you ever miss a period or have a weird period. So you could, and I've had clients that have had this happen, start perimenopause in your 30s. It's not unusual at all. The average age of menopause, which is when you have gone 1 year without having a period, that's your official menopause date, is 51 years. So if you're having it for 10 years, the average woman would probably start menopause right around 41. But there's a wide range there. I went into menopause at 57. So I know people who have completed menopause or actually in menopause have not had a period for a year at 40. So there's a huge range. And then postmenopause is all the years after your periods stop. So people find the symptoms of menopause and the ones you talked about, hot flashes, night sweats, brain fog, people talk about that. But there are huge numbers of symptoms that we never talk about. The brain fog can be so severe for some women that they are concerned they have a brain tumor.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And
Well,
that's
I know I
scary.
was really concerned with my heart. Like, I
Yeah.
thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to be disabled my whole life because I kept having these flutters and they could
Right.
not find anything wrong. And my doctor's a
Right.
woman.
Oh, absolutely. But the problem with heart flutters and is it can mimic things like AFib. So you have to be really careful. Like when I have clients who tell me that they're having a lot of heart flutters, I always tell them to talk to their doctor about it because there is the possibility it could be a heart thing. But 99% of the time, it's probably going to be just another symptom of perimenopause.
Okay. So
Um,
I
Not
interrupted
unusual.
you on the brain fog. Tell me more about.
Okay, the brain fog can get to such a point for women that it will mimic a stroke. Like you can't even think of your words.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's it could also mimic the symptoms of a head injury. But it can last for years and years. Other symptoms that people don't even think about. Did you know that if during perimenopause, when your estrogen drops, you can end up having gingivitis, gum disease, all sorts of things, and it's from your lowered estrogen?
Wow. I
Never
had no,
heard.
I mean, it makes sense that a woman's body is fueled by hormones.
Right.
I just never made the connection that those have stopped and now my body has no fuel. Am I saying that right? I mean,
Right. Even your brain has estrogen receptors in it. So when your estrogen lowers, it your brain suffers from it. Not only does your brain suffer from it and your heart, as we've already talked about, but one of the major things that women have during perimenopause that we don't talk about at all, and I bet when I say this, you're going to think of about 500 people that you know that have had the same thing. All of a sudden, you start hurting tendons, like your hips hurt, your shoulders hurt, your I ruptured my Achilles tendon at the beginning of perimenopause. Estrogen makes your tendons have the elasticity. And when your estrogen lowers, your tendons are no longer as elastic.
so does your body stop producing estrogen or just slows way down?
It slows way down to the point that it's almost zero. So when we're born, we have a certain number of eggs already, and it's in the millions. And as we go through our eggs, by the time you're 30, I think it's gone down to like you only have 28% or something like that left. It goes down really rapidly. But as your the amount of eggs that you have goes down, your estrogen goes down also. But by the time you get to perimenopause, your estrogen has gone way down, as has your progesterone. And guess what progesterone helps you with? Sleep.
Mm.
So when you have all these women who cannot sleep, cannot stay asleep, a lot of us tend to think it's because of our night sweats or hot flashes, and that does definitely contribute to it. But progesterone helps you sleep. It's that calming hormone that will help you go to sleep and stay asleep, and it goes way down also, as does testosterone. And when we generally think of men when it comes to testosterone, but testosterone helps women also, and it helps us maintain our muscle mass.
Wow.
So as our muscle mass goes down, our metabolism goes down because a pound of muscle burns way more calories than a pound of fat. It requires more energy to keep your muscles fueled. So all of this combines to make your metabolism slow down. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute.
So one other question that I have, what about this tire I have around my waist of fat that has been there for the last, I suppose, since I hit menopause, that I thought was just weight gain because I don't exercise as much, I'm not as active. And that's another thing that I learned in the podcast is that, ooh, lots of women have that. And that also can be a sign of menopause symptoms. So tell me more about that.
Okay, they call that minnow belly. There's a couple of different types. You can get the spare tire fat around your belly, and you can also get that almost pregnant look. Have you seen that where belly sticks out almost like you're pregnant? There's a few reasons for that. One is your drop in estrogen. Two is your drop in muscle mass. Three is gut health, especially if it's the pregnant looking belly. Your gut microbiome is not working correctly. Estrogen helps with your gut microbiome. It also helps keep your cortisol levels in check, and cortisol levels, higher cortisol levels, which is your stress hormone, make your gut microbiome not work as well. They cause you to gain weight in the middle. And it will also contribute to your brain fog. So doesn't this all sound fun?
Right? No
Yeah,
wonder
I
women
mean,
think we're crazy.
whoa, something to look forward to. But there's some really good news. You can fix your gut health. You can fix your muscle mass. You can lower your cortisol levels with things like meditation and stress reduction activities. And they have come out with new research that shows that hormone replacement therapy is not only safe for most women, it is also beneficial in a ton of ways. And we'll talk about that a little bit more if we have time. About 40 years ago, there was a study done that said that hormone replacement therapy was contributed to breast cancer. And the study has now been debunked. The research that they did, the biggest problem with the research is it was the average age of the people in the research study was 62. And for hormone replacement therapy to work its best, it needs to be within 10 years of your last period. So most of these women started on the hormone therapy past the time that they should have been started. Ideally, you want to get on the hormone replacement therapy during perimenopause because it has so many benefits. Sarcopenia, which is the loss of muscle, age-related loss of muscle mass, can be greatly delayed or put off completely if you do strength training exercises by hormone replacement therapy. There's also cognitive benefits from it, and it also is heart protective. So the #1 killer of women in the United States is heart disease. And hormone replacement therapy lowers your risk of heart disease. But you don't hear enough talk about it.
No. Are there any menopause symptoms associated with dementia and Alzheimer's that you're aware of?
Estrogen, let me just tell you exactly how they say it.
Okay.
Oh, where do I had a note on that?
We can always come back to that later.
Cognition. When initiated immediately after having a hysterectomy or bilateral oophorectomy, estrogen therapy may provide cognitive benefits as far as dementia and Alzheimer's.
Wow.
Another thing that we don't talk about is UTIs. How many people know older women who get UTIs all the time?
My mom gets them all the time.
My mom too.
The thing that I've noticed from not only from her, but from talking to you and talking to other women who have mothers with the same problem is that they don't know that they have it. I've never personally had one, but my understanding is you feel it. It's painful and it burns. And she doesn't seem to have symptoms. We've just been able to figure it out now based on how she acts. And it typically affects her cognitive skills immediately, which always lead us to believe something else instead of UTI. So now we're onto it. Now we're like, oh, we need to check for UTI right away.
Right. As soon as she acts confused. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's common for older women. But hormone replacement therapy helps with recurrent UTIs. It helps with pain with intercourse. It helps with pain with urination, and it helps with vaginal dryness.
Pain with intercourse. That's something that people don't talk about, right?
No. And what happens is, as your estrogen level lowers, your tissues in that area, and they're already very thin, your skin gets thinner and thinner and thinner, just like our body skin does. I mean, I'm sure we've all seen older people who have really thin skin, and like just a little bump will cause them to bleed. the same thing, and estrogen keeps your those the skin and everything down there thicker. So it's nice and thick and velvety. And when you're younger, that's how it is. As you get older and your estrogen drops, that skin gets thinner and thinner and thinner, and all that tissue's down there. And that's what causes the pain in intercourse. That's what causes the urinary tract infections. Who
Gosh, it
knew,
makes
huh?
so much sense. Okay,
Yeah.
so for me, it's probably been 8 years since I stopped having regular monthly cycles.
Okay.
My mom, obviously, she's 84, so probably 20 years or longer, maybe.
Right.
What can we do? Do these estrogen creams help? Should we see our doctor about estrogen therapy? What do you recommend that way?
I would recommend that you talk to your doctor about
Okay.
it. If it's been less than 10 years since you stopped having periods, I would definitely talk to your doctor about it because there are so many benefits. Um, if it's been more than 10 years, I'd still talk to my doctor about it because there are vaginal estrogen creams that you can use that will help with the intercourse issues with the too thin of skin and will also help with the urinary tract infections. So definitely talk to your doctor about it and seek out a doctor who specializes in women's health and hormones because even a female doctor, I have so many clients that I have had tell me that their doctor just says, oh, it's just a part of aging.
Yeah. Particularly, I mean, male doctors obviously haven't been through it. And if they didn't
Right.
study anything, they're not going to know. But my doctor is a woman. And I guess I just assumed, right, that she's going to know all of this stuff, but she's younger than me, probably hasn't been there. And if she hasn't been trained in it, she's not going to know either.
Right. And she's never experienced it. So let me just tell you, her course of care for people is going to change dramatically when she goes through it.
Right? Yes.
Yeah.
Because
Because
then she'll be
it's life
curious about it,
altering,
right?
right? Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about lifestyle changes that work.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to always go to a cream or a pill to fix anything.
Right.
So yeah, tell me about that. I have a couple of questions that I wrote down as you were talking that I want to talk a little bit more about.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So just for your information, I am on hormone replacement therapy, and it has been a huge game changer for me. Um, but I researched it extremely thoroughly before I decided to do it, just like I think every woman should, because you are in charge of your own health care. So research it, talk to your doctor, and we'll go from there. So tell me about your questions.
Um, well, you mentioned cortisol, the
Mm-hmm.
stress hormone, and I consider myself to not be under stress. I work at home. I don't have a lot of the common stressors that women have. However, I notice that when I'm uptight about trying to figure out what to do in my business or, trying to figure something out,
Right?
I get inflamed, I guess. So here's an example. I had a photo shoot done in the fall. I wanted the pictures with the leaves, and I thought I was helping out a young photographer. Oh, it'll be so much fun to do this. And she took the pictures, and I just looked bit bloated, like my whole body. And then I learned about cortisol and how, all of the effects that stress can have on you. And I realized, ooh, I was not in a good place mentally at the time. Do you
Right?
does that have something to do with it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It is such a complicated system, and your gut health is such a complicated system. It has, so you have all these little organisms called microbiome that live inside your belly. And they're now calling it the second brain. And they've just started researching it probably in the last 10 years. And they've really started to figure out how important it is. So your gut microbiome can be healthy or it can be unhealthy. There are organisms that you don't want in there. There's organisms that you want lots of. Uh, and most of them live in your intestines. So it's so important, this gut microbiome, and think of it like a garden, that it actually produces 60% of the serotonin in your body.
Ooh, from your gut.
From your gut. We always thought serotonin came from your brain. And you know, so many people are on antidepressants and stuff. And it actually, most of your serotonin comes from your gut. So if your microbiome isn't healthy, your brain isn't going to be healthy.
So it's all connected.
And your inflammation will start there also. So when you're inflamed and you've got like minnow belly and you look like you're pregnant, your gut microbiome is not working correctly. So once you get that working correctly, that does also helps you control your cortisol levels. So when your body gets stressed out, your whole system is working like a garden. So what do you do to make a good gut health? You make sure that you give it fertilizer, right? So if you're going to have flowers, you make sure you fertilize it. So what fertilizes your gut microbiome? Things like fermented foods, yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, anything that is fermented feeds your microbiome. It also makes them reproduce. The other thing that you need for fertilizer is fiber. That's called a probiotic. So you want soluble and insoluble fibers. And where do you get that? You get that from fruits and vegetables and nuts and whole grains. So we're kind of seeing a little pattern here that if we eat healthy, our gut microbiome will be healthier. Our cortisol levels will go down, our serotonin levels will go up, and we will feel like a new woman.
Makes perfect sense. And I think I mentioned to you before, when I'm consistent with my greens, I have a smoothie that I drink that has a spoonful of greens in it. When I'm consistent with that, I have less inflammation. I have less of that bloated feeling. I have less sugar cravings. I have more energy. And I know this. Like, I know that when you eat healthy, my brain knows if I eat healthy, I'm going to feel better.
Mm-hmm.
But yet it's easy to not do that.
Right.
But the pattern that I've noticed is the healthy food creates a craving for more healthy food. So talk about that just a little bit.
Well, your body knows what it needs, but it gets the food industry, especially the processed food industry, spends billions of dollars to make food that we crave. They get just the right amount of sugar, just the right amount of salt. They have scientists that work on this. That's all their only job, is to work on this to make you crave food that is salty, has sugar in it, and has fat in it that is in the right proportions to make you crave more of it. Every single one of those foods has a negative detriment on your gut microbiome. And you're absolutely right. I have more clients who will tell me after 1 week, sometimes 3 days, that of eating healthy, that they notice a huge change in their inflammation, their skin starts to look better, but most importantly, their joints feel better.
So what do I do if I want to eat healthier, eliminate or decrease some of the symptoms that I'm getting from menopause, but I still don't want to give up all of the fun foods that I like, that I know maybe are not the healthiest, but I want to enjoy life. I want to enjoy food and live life. So what's your suggestion that way?
Okay, can you give me an instance of a food that might be?
Oh, I love cheese, number one.
Okay.
I could put cheese, I could just eat cheese. If that was if that was all there is to eat, I would eat cheese every day, every meal. And
And
Terry would eat ice cream. Me too, Terry. I love ice cream too. So
I love ice cream too.
we need some help here. How can we still eat our favorite things and be healthy at the same time?
Okay, so if it's a sugar food, like ice cream, one of the best, or any kind of dessert, like if it's going to be a sugary food, the best thing you can do is eat a small, well-balanced meal before you eat it. There's a reason it comes later in the meal. Even though I tell my grandkids, life's short, eat dessert first, that's really bad advice when it's when it's comes to being healthy. We want to eat our dessert at the end of the meal because when we have the fat and the protein with it and the complex carbohydrates, it makes it slow down the absorption of the sugar.
Ooh,
Yeah,
I've noticed that we've been eating dessert
yeah,
and we eat it within an hour after we eat dinner, typically. And I don't want to eat as much. Like
right,
my portion will be smaller and I'll be comfortable with that. And so that's because I've eaten it with the full meal. Is that kind
right.
of
And your insulin. So insulin is produced by your pancreas. So when we eat something that's high in sugar, our pancreas shoots out a bunch of insulin, and that also causes inflammation, by the way. So when we eat something that's sugar all by itself, it's almost like putting an IV into our bloodstream that just shoves that sugar right in there. If you eat your protein and your healthy food beforehand, instead of going like this in your sugar spike, you're going to go like this.
okay?
And it's going to be gradual. So your body doesn't have to release as much insulin. Well, when that happens, that helps you keep everything under control. It keeps your inflammation down, cravings. An hour too long to wait. Okay, is an hour too long to wait after you eat the dinner? No, no, it's not. Within 2 hours should be fine.
Okay. Good to
Um,
know.
yeah.
Keep eating that ice cream, Terry.
So cheese, nothing wrong with cheese. Cheese has some benefits actually. It's high in fat, but as long as you use it in moderation, I think it's fine. But I would put it with something like an apple or something that has some fiber in it, maybe some berries, and eat it with
Okay.
that.
Okay. Which, when you think about it, this explains all of the, for example, cookies with nuts in them or brownies with nuts sprinkled on top. Is that
Mhm,
the idea behind that? I think about the old, what I call the old fashioned way that we
mhm.
used to when our grandmas made all of our meals from scratch and there wasn't as much processed food.
I would
And
not be surprised. Women were intuitive back then. I think they just knew what was good for your body.
mm, I just feel like there's a lot of ways besides health that I'm not one to dwell in the past, but looking back, I feel like we had it right a long time ago in what we cleaned with and how we eat, what we put into our bodies, and the exercise that we get didn't necessarily back then involve going to the gym, but it did involve working in the garden or pulling weeds or some kind of work.
Carrying hay bales to feed the cows and
Yes.
absolutely. Yeah. And it reflects in our health because diabetes this year will probably hit 30% of American people have diabetes, and almost 50% have have either diabetes, type 2 diabetes or prediabetes.
Wow.
And we can pretty much put that down to processed foods. They don't do anything to help our health. I'm glad you brought up exercise because that is a huge, huge tool in your toolbox to deal with menopause. Keeping your
And
muscle mass is so important. Number
so,
one thing to help you live a long life, healthy life.
so let me ask you this because I'm not an exerciser, right? Like I'm not going to go to the gym and work out. I'm not structured, so I'm probably not going to follow a structured exercise plan. But I
Okay.
do enjoy walking. My husband and I like to go on walks in the evening. We like to walk the dog. We like to go hiking. What are some things like that that I can do that are activities that are also helping me move my body and beneficial to my health.
Walking is a great one. Unfortunately, walking doesn't increase our muscle mass. So in order to increase your muscle mass, you need to lift heavy weight.
Okay.
And that can be resistance training, like using your body weight, or it can be lifting things. Both are great. So you need to find some activities that you would enjoy doing that either use your body weight or involve lifting things.
Would yoga or
Yoga
Pilates
is
using?
absolutely, yoga uses your body weight. Do you enjoy yoga?
I do enjoy yoga, and I enjoy Pilates as well, which is a little bit more higher impact.
And Pilates is great for strength training.
Okay, good to know.
And the bonus with yoga is that yoga has been found to also lower your cortisol levels.
That's what I love about yoga. I do yoga for the mental aspect of it, the calming effect. So if I can have that and also build muscle, and I will say that when I was doing a regular yoga practice in a studio, my muscle, looking back, my muscle mass was higher.
Yeah,
I
and you
was
have those beautiful, long, lean muscles.
Yes. I
Yeah,
was younger at the time, so I credit it as that. Now I'm getting older and I get these flabby muscles, but maybe if I started back into my regular yoga practice, I wouldn't have that.
right. And let me tell you, I live in a neighborhood that is predominantly over 55. And so I get to see, and there's like 1,500 homes in here. So I get to see a lot of women who are in our age group and older. And it has been really fun to observe the differences in lifestyles and the effects on aging. So the women who go to yoga, who are like 80, have the long, lean muscles. They do not have the middle belly. They have, not that they don't have any excess weight. Don't get me wrong. Some of them do, but they don't have the middle belly where you can see that they're inflamed. They move without restriction. One of the yoga teachers here is a great grandmother.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you can see the people who have not made exercise a priority and may. The other issue once we get over hit perimenopause is that alcohol is often no longer our friend.
Yes, I've noticed that.
Yeah.
It's, I don't want to say it makes me sick. But more than one glass of wine or beer can sometimes be like, whoa, it affects me differently than it did 10 years ago. Let's say that.
Absolutely. It affects our sleep differently. It affects our body differently. Our digestive system differently. You can tell um, the difference in the composition of bodies by between a person who is still trying to pretend that it's not adverse to their health at this point, and is having which too many for women is anything over 1 per day.
Okay.
Which is kind of surprising for most people. Moderate drinking for women is less than 7 drinks per week and not more than 1 per day. If you have more than 2, it's considered binge drinking. For men, it's 14 drinks per week, and more than 3 is considered binge drinking.
Interesting.
So when we go by those standards, a whole lot of us have an alcohol problem that's negatively benefiting our health.
Yes.
Affecting our health. I know that's not very good news for those of us who love our wine.
Yeah.
But I'm in the same boat as you. If I drink more than 1 glass of wine anymore, I feel crappy.
Yeah. Never like that feeling either.
No, it's not. It doesn't feel good, and it causes inflammation. Oh, and Terry says she gets restless legs from it.
Yeah, restless legs is a whole other conversation that we can have. I have a tiny little bit of it, but my sisters struggle terribly with restless legs. So that might be a topic for another workshop.
We've
I'm
already
gonna,
hit our half hour.
right?
Yeah, we have a whole bunch more we could talk about, but yeah, we want to keep it in small bites.
Yes. Yeah. So I would like to keep these at 30-minute workshops. Hopefully you'll come back and do some more for us, talk about all of these things and give us some tips on how to start being healthier and still loving life and having fun. Because I think, like many things, we see health as you're either healthy or you're not. And
Right.
so
It's
you're
not. It's a
extreme,
continuum.
yes, extreme junk food and just screw it, I'm going to do whatever I want, to, okay, I have to eat healthy all the time. And that's not what I want either. And so, what I
Right.
love about you is that you help us define our own version of health and whatever that looks like. And one way that
That's how
you've
people are
really,
successful.
yes, one way that you've really helped me is to help me stop labeling food as bad. I used to feel guilty every time I ate potatoes, for example, because you hear all this, oh, potatoes are awful, they're just starch, you should be eating leafy green vegetables every time. And I like some leafy green vegetables, but I don't want to get stuck on that. And so you
Right.
helped me see that all food, most food, can be beneficial if you learn how to eat it in the right way. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. And I appreciate that. One of the things I'm working on right now is a little flyer on how to make boxed macaroni and cheese, chicken nuggets, and there's one other thing, healthier.
Oh, I need that.
It's
On,
never going to be healthy. It's never going to be health food, but we can make even those real junky
yes,
convenience foods, we can make them healthier. So
yes.
you're
You know,
right. It's an absolute continuum. If you do 1% better today than you did yesterday, you're going to be a million miles ahead in a year.
yeah, 365% better if
Yeah,
I just do 1% better every day, right?
absolutely.
Now that's something I can deal with.
Yeah. Yep. Little
Okay.
changes add up to make big results. So let's do this again soon and let's find out what people would like to hear about because I thought this was
Yes.
really fun.
Terry, thank you for joining us. Do you have anything specific that you would like to learn?
Um,
Oh,
I
good.
think I was really interested in the hormone thing, but I'm way past menopause. And I do a little bit of replacements, and Rhonda, you and I can talk about that some more.
Okay.
But I've always been leery, and even my mammogram person has said, don't do replacements because of
Yeah,
cancer.
that's outdated. Even that, I mean, not necessarily for you because it has been more than 10 years,
Right.
but even the National Association of North American Association of Menopause came out finally in 2022 and admitted that they'd been wrong the whole time and that
And so
these are the
you're
new
saying if
guidelines.
it's been more than 10 years, hormone replacement is more risky? If you didn't,
No, they don't really say that either, but
oh,
they just what they've studied is that the results in the first 10 years.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
don't think your age group has been studied yet. But in that first study that they did 40 years ago, there's been there um the incidence of breast cancer, and you read Peter Attia's book. So
Mhm.
yeah, the statistics were kind of blown out of proportion by the way they did the
Okay,
study. So
yeah,
yeah, but we'll talk about that.
okay.
Anything else that you can think of?
Make my tendon issues go away.
Right.
Yeah, a little estrogen therapy back then would have been helpful, huh?
Right, right. But I do an estriol suppository that I
Oh,
got
good.
from my naturopath. And I take DHEA, which is a leader to the top of your hormone chain. But I'm wondering if I should up that. I take a small dose.
Yeah, you might want to talk to them about that and see if that would help because I know, like
Mhm.
me, you suffer from tendon issues also.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can we chat after?
sure.
Okay, cool.
I'll give you a call.
Okay, perfect.
All right,
Thank
Rhonda, thank you so much. The hormone conversation is, I think, something that's going to be ongoing, especially if you're watching, if you didn't get a chance to join us live. I'm going to keep encouraging Rhonda to come back and have this hormone conversation over and over. So if you have questions, and I'll ask this in the group as well, but if you have questions for Rhonda, send them to us so that we know from now on, maybe we'll talk about one specific symptom or group of symptoms and ways that we can help that so that we can start helping you learn what you don't know. I'm just amazed at the things that I didn't know that I just took for granted that you might be able to help us with. So,
Right. There's no reason to suffer. We can thrive through this.
awesome. So tell us how they can get in touch with you if they want to work with you personally, if they want to join your group. Promote yourself a little bit here. This is your opportunity.
Okay. If you want to get in touch with me, just email me at Rhonda with an H, RHONDA at choosingahealthyknee.org. You can also text me at 509-759-5858, and I'd be glad to answer any questions. And I do have a ton of resources, including a new 30-day program for thriving through menopause. So if you need help, just reach out and I'd be glad to help you.
Okay. And I will post those in the link in the group as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You guys, thank you.